Hello and good evening, and welcome to The Truth Behind the Truth. It is Tuesday night. Is it second Tuesday in August?
Yeah,
I guess it is. Second Tuesday in August. Wow. Time is flying. We said the other day, we were talking about it'll be Christmas in a minute. So we got a few more there. Start looking to get that tree out. Get it up early. It's September. Might as well use it for the 4 months that we got between that and the end of the year. Well, our humblest apologies on my behalf last week. The rest of the team was waiting on me, but I was I don't like to say under the weather. The weather was over on top of me. I was not feeling very well again. So we postponed last week's show. We didn't decide to the last minute. Didn't want to leave, couldn't give you the information to giving you heads up, I'm trying to say earlier on, but much better today. Hopefully that this healing process will continue, along and what have you. So how are you doing, huh?
All right. Just trying to make another day count as usual.
Well, you're here, so it's counting.
Yeah.
That's one thing for sure. I mean, it may not be exactly what you want it to be, but you're here and you're counted.
Well, let's just hope and pray that's the case.
It is. It is. So today's subject is going to be we got this. Okay. So no matter where you are with situation in terms of the climate of the political, personal, relationships, spiritual, remember you got this. At the end of the day, and collectively, we got this, but singularly, you got this. All right. And if you just kind of think about that as we talk about a few subjects tonight that we're going to get into. So we're going to kind of be the main theme is everything that we do discuss is going to be premised around you got this or we got this. But we maybe have different viewpoints about that, as we go forward. So let's start out with a little entertainment first, and then we'll get into the particulars of where we are with everything, and what's going on with this wonderful climate that we have in the idiot in office, which seems to be a consistent thing. And the more we try to get rid of him, the more he tries to keep resurfacing.
That's true.
It's very, very disappointing in a lot of aspects of it. But we can't get rid of him to the midterm anyway. So, at the end of the day, might as well just let him have his little space right now, and typically enjoy where he may be at, in terms of all of it. So it is what it is, those supporters, what was it? He had that Republican fundraiser last week out here. And, it wasn't. Fortunately, I think that portion of California was not a whole lot of pomp and circumstance because the ones that didn't like him, they showed it was more protesters there than it was likables, which is quite unique, in terms of that. One woman, she got on camera with her sparkly hat, said Trump all over it. She's the only one that spoke for it, and she says, "I'll do everything but eat his drawers." You know how that one's going at this particular point in time, So I'm like, wow, that's pretty scary. Okay. Pretty scary. But we'll have to highlight upon him at some point throughout the course of the evening periodically. But let's talk about Michael Jackson real quick. Okay. And then we'll go into Whitney Houston. Once again, I'm just so amazed at how the success of Michael Jackson in death is just phenomenal. Thriller once again has been moved to the Billboard Top 200 beating everybody. It is the album is number 9 on the Billboard charts again.
Wow.
36 million copies of that album has sold. I mean, it just blows my mind to see the success, of what his estate is experiencing. I mean, Paris, what's his name? Paris and Mike Blanket. What's the other something? Prince. Them kids ain't have to worry about nothing the rest of their life. They're already billionaires.
But those lawyers.
Oh well, yeah, of course they're gonna try
That's
to
the kickers, the lawyers that are involved in the situation. So, I mean, they won't have to work,
right?
But they will have to deal with the fact of dealing with people who are kind of still over the hedge fund, the money that comes through.
True.
So, yes.
Well, you think it's still in Catherine's hands. So Catherine ain't let money go away that easy.
Well, she's up in age, so
right.
I hope and pray that she has all her
ducks in a row.
Yeah. But then you got the uncles and the sisters, and you got the family. They still have somewhat of a say over the situation. Now, to be honest with you, the only thing I would say they will really have to worry about is the lawyers. Because that's the only thing that will get in the way of them even getting whatever they need from. Because I think Paris had to sue the guy that he fired. Now I forgot his name was John somebody. John Bronco.
It'll come back to me.
John Bronco, I think that's his name, was the lawyer that Michael got during that time when he did Thriller and all that other stuff. He was there during the 80s, but then something happened where he fired him. And all of a sudden he's now back in the fold since now he's dead and he's kind of over the money and all that stuff right now. So I mean that they will have to deal with that craziness though. But it's just the fact that they won't ever have to work a 9 to 5,
for literally, I think literally nothing.
And this movie kind of has helped that in some form of fashion. Now Paris, I don't know, but the oldest son, yes, because I think he was one of the producers of this movie.
Right. Well, no, the movies helped the estate. I mean, just tremendously. I mean, because the success of the movie, over 1 billion, over a billion, worldwide, assets and profits that has come to that. I mean, honestly, everybody that was associated with that money, if they had their business ducks in a row, they made a lot of money, and I don't know if that was their full intent. They wanted to get the story out because they didn't know they did not expect this movie to do $1 billion. It's just hard to say that they really did. And then, of course, going into what the critics tried to do in the beginning when it first came out and turned it down, they have 8 Dust, Word, Crow, and everything else in between. Kudos to, and I watched it. Right now it's available on streaming on Stars. Right now, I watched it again last night. I might watch it again tonight. We may have to watch it again tonight. I enjoyed it better the second time than I did the first time, because the theater that we were in, it was one of those interactive theaters, so everything was bouncing, thought you and all that. So it kind of took away from the true essence of the job that, God, why am I dropping names? What was the young man that played Michael? Jafar, yes. Jafar did, I think this is a phenomenal job for his first time, in a major film, because you don't get no major film like that as the first time, at the end of the day, I don't care if you're Jackson or not. At the end of the day. But I think he really did an absolute wonderful job in embodying, his uncle, and now I'm anxiously at the point of really waiting to see what number 2 is going to be like. The story continues, and so their filming starts either late this year or the first of next year. So I think it's slated to come out in 28, not in 27. So anxiously waiting. To see what they come up with. So kudos to the Jackson estate and family, and to you, America, and throughout the world. I say sincerely thank you for keeping the greatest entertainer that has ever been alive, even though he's transitioned in terms of everything that he's accomplished.
F the media. F the
media, absolutely.
Especially mainstream media that they like to throw the trash.
Right.
I don't, they were the ones that really did not hype up the situation. They hyped up your movie, the other movie that you liked, Devil Wears Prada. They hyped that one up around the same time. They should have been hyping Michael up, but knowing the media, and knowing their biases,
Right.
they didn't want to hype that up because they didn't want to give that man too much credit.
Right.
But
he got it anyway.
He got it anyway. He got it through, Lionsgate made their money.
Yes, they did. Universal made their money.
Universal made their money.
Yeah.
The Jacksons made their money back. So yeah, F the mainstream media. That's why this country is where it's at, because of the mainstream media.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
the reason why we're dealing with what we're dealing with, because the mainstream media and their biases, them not really telling us what is fact, and them allowing corporate, because it's now corporate nowadays, is telling them what to say and what not to say. So we're stuck in a bind right now. And like I said, I don't care too much for mainstream media like that.
Well, no, I mean, it's and around the house typically here, I really have one news channel I watch, and I really have most of my shows that I with except for Beyond the Gates. I don't know if y'all watch that, but y'all need to go watch that. That's so good. Is ABC. I think that to somewhat it's seemingly a trusted brand, that's out there that's not leaning to the right level. And of course, Trump doesn't like them. Because they do come forward with pretty much very much of truth. I like George Stephanopoulos' This Week with George, on Sundays, because he does dig in, and deal with the facts a little bit more. He's not afraid to answer the questions. And for the most part, most of the journalists with them are not afraid to address the questions. I think week before last, we had talked about Rachel, one of the, she's the lead reporter for ABC, and what Trump did to her, and so he got a lot of backlash from that, even though publicly we didn't get to see the backlash about it. But what he did to her was just terrible, at the end of the day. So anyway, it's not about him. We'll mention him, but the show's not about him. All right, so staying in the same vein, this is another resurgence of one of the greatest artists that will ever be, The Voice. Okay. None like her, none match her, except for one. I would say, but Minnie Riperton, but Minnie didn't live long enough to accomplish what Whitney did, in terms of that. But I think of Minnie Riperton, which is my Rudolph's mother, if she would have lived beyond, unfortunately, the cancer, she would have been in that next upper echelon, because she had the incredible voice. She was the one that birthed the Mariah Carey type of voice. That was octave. Is it octave? Was it?
No, I don't know what octave, but I know she sings in that range.
Right.
But I beg a difference, because even though Minnie had a great voice, but she didn't have the backing that Whitney used to have.
Exactly.
And I think her and Barbra Streisand were underneath the same record label. I think they were both underneath Columbia at the time. So to be honest with you, Barbara even had more backing than Minnie. But to be honest with you, Whitney was in a special situation. She was almost in the same situation as Diana Ross, because to have a whole record company back you in your career like that and put a lot of resources and money behind you, I know whatever that she was told to do, she had to do it. And she had a lot to put up with, because there was a lot of focus in the beginning of her career to make things happen and to get number one hits.
Right.
So Whitney was a corporate artist. She had to toe the line the best way she knew how to get where she had to go. And there's a lot of pressure. That is a lot of pressure on anybody who has that type of talent and wherewithal, because you want to do so much with it, but there's only so much you can do, because you have the head of the record label who thinks best, and who he deems knows best. Like Tommy Mottola, Mariah Carey. Right. Mariah Carey would tell you, because she was a product of Tommy Mottola. He ended up marrying his product too. Right. So she had a lot to put up with the first few albums she did for Columbia. Until I think Tommy went into Sony Records after that, but still, that's a lot of a responsibility. And Whitney was in a different class because of it. And I think, to be honest with you, people don't understand. Her career was a very, very special career for a Black woman, even during that time in the 80s. Like I said, I mentioned Diana Ross. Diana Ross had a whole corporation. She had Motown literally behind her career, producing, putting money behind her career, just putting her out there. Same thing with Clive and Whitney. So I think, to be honest with you, You had a lot of great voices. You had a lot of great singers during that time period, but none of them had the backing that Whitney had.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I can, well, not fully knowing that industry is, you know, that you.
And that's not taking away from Whitney's talent.
Oh no,
that's
no,
not taking away from what she gave, because what she had was a God-given talent. But this, what I'm saying is, what makes her so special, what made her career very interesting, is the fact that she had a company literally behind her, gearing her for whatever that she was going to, where they thought she should be going, and they succeeded. It worked. I mean, her first 2 albums, her introduction was the biggest album for an artist to come into her debut album. Really debuted very high, and she had to compete with that debut album with Whitney. And when she came out with "I Want to Dance with Somebody," it hit #1 first thing, and that was the first for a female artist. So she was living up to the expectations of what Arista was wanting for their female premier singer. And she did such a good job at it that, you know, I think it took a lot, the record people by storm, but then it caused a lot of rift with, you know, certain demographics. And we already know who felt some type of way about it. So it is what it is.
Yeah, true that. You know, I again, just proud of the success, you know, and I won't get into, well, you know what, we can bring that, we'll weave that back into one of these videos that you're going to like a little bit in a little bit. But kudos to Whitney. And then we didn't mention about her Barbie doll. Okay? Oh, yeah. The likeness of that Barbie doll is very, very good. If you haven't seen it yet, I mean, it's certainly, buy that doll, y'all. Please.
Don't support it. Yeah.
Please.
Support it.
Okay. I mean, I'm glad Mattel, you know, the makers of Barbie decided to go that way, especially with another doll of color. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think it's the right timing for that, with given the tension that's going on with women of color, you know, in society and you know, and things of that particular nature. I think it's really good, you know, and they did a remarkable job. They say who's managing her estate now?
Pat Houston.
Yeah. So they said Pat went through several different phases, you know, of. You know, when it was being done, well, she's the catalyst before the estate. Because ain't nobody left her at the Whitney Houston estate, you know, nobody around. Yeah. So she's the one that's benefiting from all of the, you know, the financial gains and all.
I have such. I don't care too much for that, but you know, to be honest with you, the only person I wish would have at least, but it's, you know, it is what it is. But I think Robin would have did the estate much better, the legacy much better, because she would have had a little bit more respect for the legacy. I think, to be honest with you, and y'all can say whatever you want to say, but I think Whitney would have still been here.
Oh gosh,
if Robin was
if
Robin was there, Whitney would still be here.
Yes, she would.
And I think Bobby Chris would have still been here too, because there would have been somebody willing to try to help and navigate and get her on the right path, because they knew each other for such a long time. And the saddest thing about it is it took really the situation with sexuality, the misogyny and all that stuff to kind of uproot Robin out of her position, because nobody can tell me that Whitney was not stable without Robin. Robin was there through all of the good as well as the bad, but then it got worse when she left. And there was nobody protecting Whitney. Nobody was there. And the saddest thing about it is people say, well, you know, her family should have been her family. That was her, I hate to say it, that were her enemies besides the public. Because if you are the breadwinner and the family is eating off of you and you're telling them, listen, I'm sick, I have a problem and I need help, I need to take some time away. Well, who's gonna feed us?
Well, you know,
who feeds us? That's why, and I know that's what they were saying behind closed doors.
I'm sure,
because somebody brought this to my, you know, if she goes and gets help, that means everything falls apart. That means nobody works. That means nobody's making money. So it's hard for an artist who has a whole team underneath her or him to say, well, you know, I need to go find a rehabilitation center and get some help. They will not see, those people who are working for them will not want that to happen, because that's where the money stops.
No, I agree.
I see it on my job. If I'm telling my employer that I need to take some time off because something's wrong with me, they don't want to give me that leeway of saying, you know what, go get you some help.
Right.
Because for them the money stops. They act like they cannot put nobody in your place.
Right. I completely agree.
I don't care how much, but they don't want to. That's the saddest thing about the capitalistic system. People need to make their money. But once humanity will always be in question when there's money to gain. I mean, let's take it off of Whitney. I can go back as far as Judy Garland, because I'm a big Judy Garland fan. That's how gay I am. But I remember there was
whatever.
But it is what it is. But I remember there was this story, and this is where I get very angry when people say, "Well, she was nothing but a pillhead." But there was a time when the FBI got involved.
Right.
And the narcotics division went to Louis B. Mayer, who was head of the MGM Studios,
right.
which is now Sony Studios. I think Amazon had bought it. But they went to him and asked and said, "Listen, we know about this woman's issue and her problems, and I think she needs some time away."
Right.
He said, Louis B. Mayer said, "Out of the question. We have millions of this girl."
Mm-hmm.
And that's sad to know that that's how people will look at people like Judy Garland, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson. They're all commodities products to people.
Right.
They're not human beings when they're the ones making the money.
Right.
And when, God forbid, if they say, "I need to take some time off." Well, you got this going on. We got this happening. We're hot. No, but I'm not hot. I'm tired. I'm sick. And I need some time off. Well, the money's going to stop. See, that's why you have people like Britney Jean Spears. You have people like that who are having such a hard time navigating life without the pressures, because they have never had time to navigate it with the pressure.
Right.
It's just the saddest thing about these situations where people who are stars have to deal with the pressures of life.
Right. Well, to your point,
and expectations.
Yeah. To your point, which is that is such an intrinsic world when you have reached that particular level, whatever that is, and the controlling elements are so high because you are a product. Number one, by being a product, there's a price tag on everything that you do. Price tag on you going to bed at night, price tag you walking in the street, price tag you going to a restaurant with your friends, or I'm saying, it's all a price tag because it becomes promotional. So you can show up to a restaurant with somebody, whatever it is, then the press gets involved, and then so that comes promotional opportunities, and so your life is just so focused around being a product. Everything you do. I mean, to the point probably going to the restroom is a product, for you. It's like, oh my God, I went to the bathroom with Michael Jackson, wouldn't use, whatever the case may be. But the one point that we're going to move on is in the behaviors of family management. Whitney's dad was no different than Michael's dad. Mm-hmm. The only difference is that he couldn't put his hand on like Joe Jackson did Michael, at the end of the day. But this is where the crossroads of what they call helicopter parenting, in a situation such as this, and ruining the lives of individuals that doesn't even have the freedom to be themselves in and of themselves. And then you are that product because the parent at that time, they thought it was money and greed. That one Whitney movie, the one that, which one was it? The last one, that was a young lady, did a phenomenal job. It was the last one. They didn't like it because it was so close to the truth and how it portrayed her dad as how he was to her. And this is one that Robin oversees. Wasn't the last one?
Robin never oversees any of this.
Okay, so
it's been always her people.
Okay. Oh, this was the one that Clyde was. This is one of them.
Pat was over all of that.
This one I think was one of the better ones. The young lady that played her, which was really good, and it kind of went in a little bit further than the other ones that were afraid to tap into, in and of itself. But anyway, so we salute, Whitney, we salute you. Of course, we wish you, and Michael, we salute you double. Yeah. We wish you guys were here, but the one thing for sure is that your talent, your legend, you will always be in existence, and not shifting it to a degree. But I'm a Michael Jackson diehard because I grew up with it. You know, I grew up with them, and I watched the success. They put a list of all of these other artists that are the most popular artists that, you know, this to this day and time. And Michael, the king of pop, is still above all of them. Drake and all these other ones they try to put it. He has succeeded them even in downloads. So please, okay.
Fly by night artists.
Okay.
Are not going to be here for too long.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just a fact, you know what I'm saying, how much did they, you know, have put in there. But anyway, we're going to move on. Michael, as I said, we love you, you know, whatever. So we're going to take you know what? Let's I think we're going to do like dissect this next video because this is from our little following Monty. It's really good. And I really appreciate how she takes the steps to go forward and deep in that. She's coming against you know, the misogyny of Christianity in a very strong way. She's coming against racism. She's coming against feminism. She's coming against, you know, all these other type of things that she has a way of bringing it. She's probably the person that on social media has the hugest amount of following because of her talent. But we're going to look at this. We're going to probably break it down in sections, you know, and you know, kind of have a discussion around, you know, let's get started with her.
Now, my plane just touched down in St. Lucia, and I wanted to jump on here to remind you all that Black people do not hang themselves from trees. Do you hear me? None of this is okay, and none of this is normal. A Black woman was found hanging on Monday night behind a vacant home in Mississippi. Guess who's going to be the medical examiner? The same one that investigated Trey Reed up at Delta State University that was found hanging. The same one that is on the investigation for Nolan Wells. Exactly. So let me tell you all something. We are being hunted, and we need to move as such. Okay? None of this is okay. If we wanted to find a way to get up off this spinning rock, it would not be through hanging ourselves from a tree. She was hung so high that they had to call in people to get her down. Do you all understand? None of this is okay, and none of this is normal. Black people do not hang themselves from trees. And because we know this, we need to stop skipping past these headlines, okay? I don't want you all to become numb to this. None of this is okay, and none of this is normal.
Okay, now white people come to the front, especially white women. Your response to these headlines should not be, let's wait and see. It should be, what the fuck happened? It should be a demand of answers. I need some of you ladies, especially if you stay at home or you're retired, to watch these headlines like a fucking hawk. Call the offices. Do not give them any rest. If you want to be an ally, that is how we respond. Why? Black people don't hang themselves from fucking trees. They don't. That's not a thing that happens. And here's the thing, ladies. We didn't build this system, but we benefited from it because we were born with this skin tone, okay? It is a lot safer for us to roll up on the sheriff's office or the ME or the local news station and say, we are demanding answers. Put your stiletto on their fucking neck and don't take it off. Call their offices every day, if for nothing more than to let them know I'm fucking watching you. It is so much safer for us to take a frontline position than it is for someone like Ray Shonda. When Black people demand answers, more of them go missing. That's what fucking happens. Nolan Wells, his death is still being investigated. And instead of looking for honest answers and giving answers, people are going after his mom for wanting answers about why he fucking died. We didn't build this system, but we did benefit for it. You use that white fucking privilege to protect them and demand answers. That is how we change the system. And white women in particular, for far too long, the women who came before us, so many of them participated in maintaining the status quo because we thought proximity to power was going to save us. It will not save you. Ladies, we need to build spreadsheets, track the counties, give those offices zero rest. Take our inner Karens that every single one of us has, and we use it for good. This will not change if Black people stand by themselves. It is our time to take a frontline position.
I mean, he's right. And to be honest with you, that's something that needs to be done. And to be an ally, you have to get involved. You have to get involved and not be numbed or just say, you know, that is not the issue with me. We are living in some devastating times right now. We are. The times that we live in is very telling. You know, I was thinking about the song Nina Simone wrote because of the situations that happened in '63 in Birmingham. The song, go look it up, it's called Mississippi Goddamn. And every lyric that she put into that song is telling, it's unfortunately, it is now, it's pushed, it's really, she foresaw or foretold in those lyrics what they had to deal with and what we are dealing with right now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Mississippi goddamn is so prevalent right now. I'm surprised nobody has went back and found it and re-recorded it, because right now, I'm not surprised about what's going on down south or what's going on in Mississippi. I'm not, knowing the history of the dubious stuff that they've been doing for many years. Black civil rights cold cases that have not been solved. In that state, there's plenty of cold cases where they were just killing and lynching and raping and pillaging Black folks all through and through that state, where there were never people found, arrested, and prosecuted. That is still going on to this day. Emmett Till was just was one of the casualties that embarrassed that state.
Right.
That was never supposed to come out of Mississippi.
Right.
And that's one thing people don't understand about how that relates to what the situation with Nolan Wells. That story, when that 14-year-old boy died, they were going to bury his body in the state of Mississippi. They were going to bury the story along with the body. The body was never supposed to leave the state until his mother got on the phone and called the state and called her state. Right. And called somebody to get that body up out of that out of the state.
But she brought media exposure to the situation and put his body on display, and that's what,
and it embarrassed
the
whole country as well as the state.
Right, and that's how the investigation got started. Which really was not to the satisfaction of anybody in America. I mean, kind of inclusive, about that. My one point about that, and you can finish your point about the Mississippi situation. Emmett Till would be 70 years old now,
Mm-hmm.
70, 75 years old right now at this particular point in time. But I've said this on our show several times. This is not but the next video you're gonna think it's a little bit racial implication, but this is stuff that just need to be talked about. I think it's embarrassing, and I'm saying embarrassing on both parts, because I like how Monty put the charge out there, typically for white women to take the bull by the horns and let's get busy so this stuff can stop happening. But at the same time, I need my white brothers. I'm sorry. Y'all in legislation, y'all let this stuff go by, y'all let, and all said it's a concerted, unified effort that needs to happen among Black and white people to get this change happen, okay? Because we've dealt with the ones that have marched to the city of Washington, but nobody was out there when they covered the face and stuff, and nobody except for me, this show, okay, that I know, because I'm on social media a lot. I ain't seen nobody talking about them fools that walked to Washington. Did you see anything?
I mean, I saw people bring up the notion that there was another Klan.
Yeah,
march.
but in to call it that, to speak to it and to bring it down and draw attention. So it's one thing to talk about something and not bring a point to change it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, or put a voice out there to change. There's enough conversation going on about everything.
Well, listen, we talked about this. We talked about this during the election. See, the thing about this is, this comes with consequences. When you don't get involved in your civil duty, right, this is what's going to happen. You got to understand that this is a game that's being played and has been played for many years.
Go ahead, keep going.
But the saddest thing about it is the numbers. The reason, and people are, going to say, well, I know what he's going to say. You should get out there and vote. But what's so funny? They now got the SAVE Act bill. They're trying to get the SAVE Act bill passed through, and they probably have gotten it passed through some form of fashion. But that bill is supposed to hinder people of color from voting.
Right.
During the time of the 50s, especially during the time of Emmett Till, and this is probably one of the reasons how Emmett Till got caught up in this situation, not only whistling, but the tension in the state of Mississippi was so prevalent even during that time that many of Black people who were on the voting registrars list were going missing. Mm-hmm. And this is where I get at people when they say, well, why my vote don't count? Why should I get out and do that? If your vote didn't count, why are they still killing people and making up bills to keep you off the voting register, or to keep you from even making a simple ballot? You're sitting up here giving them ammunition. The minority of this country is winning because the majority will not get up off their tail and make the change that is needed. Even in states like Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, all of this stuff, those states should never be red through and through.
Well,
with the amount of black people who still live in those states, those states should be purple as all get up. But the saddest thing about those states is a good old boy corrupt system that is still there because they have instilled the fear within black people and some poor whites too. Who do not want to get out and make a difference for themselves or to bring a change. That is why Nolan Wells' case is still being played with down in Mississippi, because there is a corrupt system that still allowed this thing to still fester.
Well, I couldn't say it better myself. And I'm going to leave it at this particular point in time. 2 points. I think it's highly embarrassing that even the amount of people that with this private, there's a couple of them, people of color that are in Congress, Senate, whatever it could be. I think it was highly embarrassing that it took 60 years for an Emmett Till bill to get passed through Congress to be a national law. And President Biden did it, but some of y'all ain't gonna like what I'm about to say, but it's true. But guess what? Juneteenth got passed in less than 4 years. Something wrong somewhere.
Well, they were throwing us a bone from what they were saying.
Well, but still, you see my point, okay? And as we're discussing it now, I'm looking at Nolan Wells' situation. It's a modern day Emmett Till. The disfigurement of and what the abuse that Emmett Till went through is just unmatched, in terms of that. However, we really don't even know what Nolan Wells' body looked like after they took out the water because they didn't show it.
We know that it was face down.
Right. So there's going to be some decomposing and all that. Instead of severely decomposed for being in the water anyway, because water is going to cause the death body to decompose very heavily, in that aspect. But let me
say this before you go into other things. This is where I feel like you need to have the gift of reading the room. Right. The saddest thing about that whole entire fiasco of this situation of him dying and getting caught up in the party that he went to was nothing but a MAGA teen party. Okay. Even in the clip of them off the island, you saw the MAGA flags literally everywhere on those boats. There ain't no people of color even out there but him, it seemed like. If there was, I didn't see him. Right. But the saddest thing about people like Nolan, and I hate to say this because there are people like Nolan who want to believe that we are living in a colorblind society. There are still archaic traditions in certain places of the United States. There is an archaic society even in the South that still holds on to traditions. They still hold on to values that belongs to their birthright. And I hate to say this again, the reason why that boy is not with us right now is over a white girl. Truth behind the truth. It's over a white girl. Because the one person they keep bringing up is the person who said that he was with her the whole entire time. And the saddest thing about that situation as well is the fact that they said that her ex, Bart, was also at this party. But they also said that he was not there. The lie was he wasn't there. But on the tape, he was there. And that tells me all that I need to know about the situation. There had to be been an argument over a female. Through alcohol and whatever they were drinking. Right. And that right there is very telling when you have one black man who flirting with this one white girl that this other white man would want, an all white MAGA party. What do you think was going to happen?
Well, I mean, we do, and this is where and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I mean, in terms of the just point of it, what we have to do as people, okay, this is how I started out the conversation earlier tonight. Now, our theme topic is you got this, we got this, whatever. So the question that we need to ask ourselves regularly here is, how do we have this? Okay, because if we're still on sides about personal opinions about certain elements of things, I'm not saying it, this is not justifying anything. You know what I'm saying? This is just a global perspective of how we have to pull ourselves in and be able to have this conversation that's needed to have to identify the problem. Because with this face, you can't go in and attack it and saying that we've got an answer to the problem.
No, but
Because-
that's a
wait,
great
let me finish,
hypothesis.
let me
though.
finish. No.
It's a great hypothesis.
You know, and so we collectively have got to find a way that we do not keep sacrificing women hanging from trees. Hypothetically, we started with this. We cannot sacrifice young men like Nolan Wells falling into a situation or whatever. You don't know people, you know, and we want to blow it up. In this next video we'll talk about too, we want to blow it up and keep it as we versus them. But at the end of the day, it's still a we versus we. And our we is so projected out there that our voice to have a more callous thing over the them, it doesn't carry any weight. Because somebody could easily come along and say, well, look what you're doing. You know, and we're constantly in that same battle. So what I'm saying is that we, as the we's, have really got to go within ourselves, within the ranks of what some of the community, and develop a better mindset for the we. Because if we don't appreciate the we, anything outside of the we is not going to do it any further. Because they'll simply say, well, they don't give a shit about them, so why should we? Why should we be held accountable for their behavior, our behavior? Because they don't care about their behavior. You know, at the end of the day, we can get in on the dissects about that. So it's a mindset that has to be changed. Now, you and I have traced this for many, many shows, going back into the way and how and why we've gotten the way that we've gotten within the we. You know what I'm saying? But tonight shows what? We got this, right?
But see, when it boils down to one's humanity, you should never have to use that type of hypothesis to justify a situation of a murder. The thing about it is, though, that's the problem. We leave back doors open for people to say those things and to believe those things.
Not to cut you off, but the we's, okay, and the we got this, don't understand that. Okay, some of the we's that were before us, like Miss Alma was watching tonight. Hey, Miss Alma, thank you for watching, Charles' mother. Understand that to a degree because they were a part of what that portion of the we is, and she instituted a lot of the values that Charles, our counterpart, has, within the ranks of it. But somewhere that we, okay, as we're saying, has dropped, and it became we versus them. And
it's too late for that.
No, it's never too late.
Yes, it is.
No, here's the thing. It's
because
never,
how could something like this have happened?
Because of responsibilities of what we's have allowed ourselves to get in. Our next two videos, we'll talk about that.
Well, let's get to the new video.
Okay, but the first one is going to be right away. You're talking about and this racist war, and there's a conversation that went on with another group of people that I hope I got the right video, that about where the we's are now trying to define what is considered racist, racism, and all this, the process of that. Okay, but here, hopefully this is the right video, guys, and we can talk.
So black people can't be racist?
Black people can't be racist.
You're young as fuck. Shut up.
Let me explain
Play the
that.
music. Why black people can't be racist?
What Blueface was saying there actually makes a lot of sense if you have spent your entire life hearing people misuse that word. Like if from your childhood to now, you understand racism just to mean a person who hates another person because of the color of their skin, why wouldn't black people be able to be racist? Okay, so what do we do as young men when we feel that tension that he felt in the car? We stay intellectually curious and ask clarifying questions.
What's the definition of racism?
Right now,
Good. You're halfway there. What is the definition of racism? Racism is actually a combination of two things. You need two things to be happening at the same time for it to be considered racist. The first is you need racial prejudice. The second is you need institutional subjugation. These sound like complicated phrases or like they're hard to understand. They're not hard to understand. They're very easy to understand. I'm going to explain them to you. This one just means you need to hate people because of the color of their skin. Easy money. That's what we call racial prejudice. But once you have this, now you need the institutional power to take that prejudice, to take that hate and enforce it into systems that the person you hate is going to have to run into in their daily lives. Once you have both of those things, then you have racism. Think about it. Racism is an ism, like capitalism, like socialism. It refers to systems. You feel me? Actually, system is like the first word in the definition of racism. Here's an example. In D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation, he used white actors in blackface to depict black people as animalistic and dangerous. And in the movie, the KKK comes and they kill this black man who had assaulted a white woman, and they drop his body off in front of the police station, and the crowd cheers. From that movie, institutions began to change. Because of that prejudiced depiction of black people in that movie, institutions changed. More laws got passed that would police black people's everyday movements. States had anti-lynching laws that were going to get passed that were going to make it illegal to lynch black people. And they took them out. Police institutions upped the amount of black people they began to arrest. Institutions began to change. Systems and institutions that black people had to deal with every day began to change because white people had the power not just to be racially prejudiced, but to enforce that prejudice into systems. That's racism. An ism of racial prejudice. When racial prejudice becomes more than just a prejudice, when it becomes an ism. That's why black people wearing whiteface isn't racist. It doesn't complete this formula. It's not racist. It's prejudice, but it's not racist. Whereas like white people wearing blackface is racist because white people have the power to do this and this. Fun fact, the real life KKK didn't even burn crosses until they saw the movie. Like that's something that they saw the movie and they were like, we should do that. You see what I'm saying? It's a whole different, that's why white people, it's different.
No, you go ahead.
Wow. I like his breakdown, of what in bringing a great information to a modern day culture, and then how the conversation started about it, and then they were having this debate. So, wherever the young people that were in the car and in their understanding, I'm glad they're having that conversation. Okay, and it goes into what I was saying a little bit earlier, or not a little bit earlier, before that particular video was played. When you begin to understand where something comes from and how it's developed, then you find a strategy of a way of being able to conquer it based on what the conquering needs to be for that. And honestly, we all want that bridge to be gap, the bridge to be gap. I mean, the gap in the bridge to be covered. We all want that in some sort of a way, but it's the point of how we're going about it. So my hypothesis all the time is that it has to start with a conversation, but in that conversation, you've got to find yourself in that conversation. Where am I responsible? Now we can debate, well, I'm not responsible for a racial problem. Well, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. But it may not be to the degree of the way you think that you are. And then you have to trail it back to how you even just started viewing another human being different than what you view yourself or you view your brother. And let's just take it off another community. How do we view each other? How? How do you view somebody else? Do you walk into a room or when you pass another black man or black woman? What is your thought in the beginning? I'm not putting you on the spot, but I'm just kind of saying you as a scenario here. Do you feel the anticipated love, or do you feel like all of the things that have been fed to you by other situations, organizations, church organizations, and all these things, what you've heard people say, how you've seen them act? How do you formulate an opinion? Just as a person of color looking at another person of color. So we want to magnify that when it becomes somebody else identifying us in a different manner, but we haven't been ready to deal how we deal with each other and how we look at each other. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's got to be in a place where we move from, they're this because of this, and they're this because we ain't dealt with what's going on with you right here. You see what I'm saying? And I'm getting from him is that understanding the isms, and you've heard me say a lot about isms and words that mean words behind words, and attacking that when you really don't even know the clear understanding of what's coming behind that word. But anyway, that's my point. Go ahead.
But it does go. I've been saying it for a long time, and this is just for clarification. Black folks just cannot be racist. It's a different type of prejudice that we have, but we are not racist. I stand on that. We're not.
Well,
We don't have the power and wherewithal to justify or to put power behind anything that will keep people away from work or make laws that will keep people from doing whatever they would like to do. The saddest thing about our situation is that we have always been, regardless of whatever that we have had to go through, and I'll go here because I'm going to go to this place. But let me just say this. Who was it? The gospel singer, Mahalia Jackson. I saw an interview with her. It came across my algorithm, and she was talking about the fact that during the Great Depression, there were people, there were hobos that were traveling back and forth within the United States looking for jobs. And there were blacks as well as whites.
Uh-huh.
But whites couldn't get food from other whites because white folks didn't have that type of community. They felt like the only way they could get some form of food or whatever they needed was to go through the black community because black folks would give food.
Mm-hmm.
They would give things.
Yeah, you told the story before. Go ahead.
And the thing about what we're trying to justify is this racism. I feel like sometimes when it boils down to us, we have always been an open door policy for everybody else.
Okay.
For everybody else to keep the closed door policy from on us.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Let me repeat myself. We have been an open door policy for everybody else's situation,
Okay.
while everybody else has used a closed door policy for us.
Okay.
And that is the truth.
Okay.
Because I think the one thing that really that irks me about our community is that we are very open. We're so open to the fact that we got this new phrase called they are welcome to the barbecue for just doing the most mediocre things. Why are we inviting people? But then that's just us being us, but yes, I don't believe that black folks could be racist. I'm sorry. I want to stand firm in that. We cannot be racist.
Well, I'm just
We
gonna say,
cannot.
well, we can. Okay, but if you're looking at it from let's just if you isolate it down. Okay, this is why I always say that you got to go in further than just kind of. I'm not saying you're not doing it. You have to go a little bit further in than where we
are prejudiced in our
But
some of the ignorance that we
prejudice,
have.
racism, saying okay, because here's the thing: you like to use the connotation of racist because of the element of power, and that interjects that. But you're looking at it from here to there. But let's deal with the racism in your own community. I'm not talking about outside of it. Okay. Let's just go to the four walls that everybody deals with. And this next video will deal with that in just a minute. That you and I have had the battle with, whatever the case be. It is a racist perspective to use the power that we think in our Creator against the gay community. That's racist. Okay, then it's a racist implication. And it's a racist judgment. It's a racist behavior. And I'm just sharing that because that's the biggest one that's going on right now. Okay, for whatever reason. Okay, so the spirit of racism reigns right in the same community. The external side, I agree with you at the end of the day, because there's an element of power, but there's power in the community. Okay,
There's power.
And there's a hell of a lot of power in the community. But what are we doing with that power in the community is my point. Okay, but we use that power. 4 walls Sunday morning. Attack. It's like there's nothing else going on but that in the community. We're not talking about the power we have to build senior citizens' homes. We're not talking about the power that we have to empower HBCU colleges.
Mm-hmm.
We don't, but we have the power to make demands on tithes and offerings, don't we?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, just this thing that came up post on Instagram a couple weeks. This pastor out there talking about that week before last, putting a demand, a power on the people that you had to prove how much tithes you paid for the past 3 years, and then a 12% difference or whatever to join the choir. Racist power. You see what I'm saying? So when we begin to manage the things that are within the control and the power that we have within the ranks of the community, then what you say outside of it, I think it will carry more weight. But you can't interject all the time, point, and you got a whole bunch of shit going on in your closet. You know,
But I wouldn't call that racist. I would call that more of a homophobic,
well, no,
misogynistic.
I just use that as an example,
scenario.
but it is, but you refer to the idea of your parent, and that's fine. That you can't be racist unless you maintain the power to be able to do that. So what I'm saying is, I'm taking it away from them. But when you maintain the power, what you have power. It's just the same thing. You can't change that. It can't be just listed as a prejudice. You know what I'm saying? It becomes a power. You have the power to stand before a gathering of people. Those that don't like me going after the church, I'm going after this, but I'm going after the behaviors of what the institutional has institutionalized our thought patterns. And what I'm trying to do is free the thought pattern so that we can be free enough to see what needs to be done in a country, that we have the power within to maintain and invoke change. But we don't understand it because we're too busy interjecting in you. You see what I'm saying? So you can't identify with the power. You can't identify with the power of God in you because you're trying to this at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying.
You know, so you get one point. We got to move on. But realistically, it's a very deep point. And all I'm trying to say is, like what this gentleman was trying to say, I think in this video, is that identify what you're saying and why you're saying it, and know that you want to point it at somebody else, but you look at yourself. Your behaviors are sometimes even worse than a word that somebody could say. You know? But anyway, we'll move on. This is going to be a little deeper in what we're talking about. This is Javon, real quick. We got to wrap it up. This time is going real fast tonight. All right. Basically, kind of elaborate on what we're talking about. You're going to love this part. Here we go.
You all to actually make is how the black family operates exactly how the black church operates. You have the preacher who you can't say anything to. Then you have the first lady who thinks she needs to brag about everything because she is the preacher's wife, which is typically, I wouldn't call the big mama, but it is that loudmouth in your family who's proud that she got the husband that she never thought she would get. Then we have the congregation who hides everything on behalf of the pastor. Sounds very familiar. That's just like the aunts and uncles who hide the pedophiles inside of the family. It's the same thing they do with the church. They hide the pedophiles in the congregation on behalf of relevancy to the pastor. Listen, people, it is time that we start looking at the patterns in these things. It's okay. You're going to defend this and say, well, not every pastor. But let me tell you, if it happens enough, you might as well account the fault to everybody. You cannot be in a belief system that you claim is supposed to change the world, but you're doing most of the damage. In both structures, the person who breaks free from the collective is always treated as the problem because they refuse to participate in what everyone else refused to question. And when it comes to the family, it's that's still your family. When it comes to the churches, that's still about church. It's still about God. Listen, people, if you don't like them outside of church, you're not going to like them inside of church because it gives their personality somewhere else to practice. But let me give you perspective. Your grandma prayed, her grandchildren prayed, and there's still a lack of results. So why is the black church so culturally untouchable that the lack of results can still become somebody else's fault? And then you'll hear people say, well, my family goes to church. Well, of course they do. And most of them are going to church not to learn how to love, but to make sure that they can be forgiven for how they hate it. And I hate to hear this idea where the black family doesn't come together anymore. I don't know what it is. We need God in our lives. People, are you forgetting that the church was often utilized as a collection place of gathering people who didn't even like each other? Man, Javon Cross here. Don't get weak on the weekends. Go get them. One.
Go ahead, baby.
Yeah, that is the culture of the community. Because to be honest with you, and I will reiterate this over and over and over again, there was a time when black folks just didn't have nowhere else to go. Even, I mean, during the time of oppression, even after slavery, what could we do? The church was the foundation, was the cornerstone for the black culture.
Yes.
But the saddest thing about the cornerstone was they held on, just like Southern whites, to archaic traditions.
Say that again. Say that again.
Archaic traditions.
I mean, with the infirmity and the intensity. I mean, the deep part of you. I'm really, because that's a very powerful statement that you just made, and I hope you guys heard what he said. Say it one more time.
You mean like Southern whites? The black church held on to archaic
traditions. You see where we are right now? Do you see where we are right now? Archaic traditions. And what has happened and what it's doing to us is that we're afraid to take the challenge to diminish the archaic traditions. Because that means that we have to start being responsible for the things that are going on that should not be going on. This is why we allow in silence, like Ron said, in silence. It's okay because the pastor's a pedophile. It's okay, Uncle Church, we don't speak on those things, because we could go deeper into that and the reasons why we don't. But I love that. You know what? That we're gonna wrap it up with the archaic tradition. We're at that point right now in the time. I love that. You guys grab that. I mean, you really grab that. I mean, the archaic traditions that have kept the community in bondage, okay, to a mentality, to a belief system that is so wrapped up that you don't even know how much you're into this particular system. But my challenge, and I've said it to Ben before, that if you assemble with a group of Black people on a Sunday morning, y'all come on, we can do this. What's the title of the show today? We got this. Mm-hmm. We got this. But you've got a voice and you've got a place. Pastors, you got a place and a voice, okay? Please get away from all of this finger pointing, trying to tell people, trying to define what you consider a heaven and a hell fictitiousness, worrying about all of the unnecessary things. Start building a community of wealth and power, but that wealth and start from within. Okay, the understanding of positioning and how money works, not for tithing for your church, but building wealth in the community of people so that they will have money. So when you need to build a fellowship hall or whatever else is your church, the money will be there without a problem, because there'll be a willingly giving opportunity. Okay, please let's just, we got this, y'all. We got this. But you've got to start believing in the fact that you do have this. All right, we're going to end tonight real fast with one of my favorite motivational speakers, and this is probably one of the most challenging words that I've ever heard him say, of dropping where you are with things and it's basically right in line what we're talking about. Very, very good. We're going to finish up with him, and we'll say goodnight after this.
I will tell you the number one thing that stops people from accomplishing what it is that they're capable of accomplishing. They live in a victim state of mind. Life is happening to me. I see this happen with athletes, always complaining to the refs. The ref may not be right, but the ref ain't never wrong. The ref ain't gonna stop and change it. Oh, you're right. Okay. Stop being the victim. Stop feeling like everything and everyone is against you. Nothing is against you. No one's out to get you. Nothing's trying to stop you. Take that same energy and devote it toward yourself. So here's what I started, because I'm a recovering victim. Everybody and everything was always trying to stop me and harm me, and look at it. Instead, when you take this mindset and you say, you know what? Nothing can stop me. Nobody is getting in my way. You see, now you're taking that same energy, and instead of you looking at why you can't do something, you're taking that energy and using it to say why and how you can do something. And that is the difference between a victim and a victor. It is a choice that somebody must make. So hear me when I tell you this. Every day that you wake up, every opportunity, every situation is a choice. I can either play the victim or I can play the victor. And if you've been conditioned to play the victim, it's going to take some time. But ultimately, you're the one who gets to make the choice. When you start to make the choice to be the victor, you will change the trajectory of your life.
Exactly. Couldn't say it better. Anything you want to add? You sure? This is a strong point to really to end the show tonight. In my opinion, I think this is probably one of our more formative and deeper, conversational pieces that we've had in a while. And I'm really grateful for what you said, and the points that you dropped in that. And every video built on the point of letting each of us know that we got this. Mm-hmm. And as I can think of his name right. As he said last night, where are you going to continue to put yourself? Are we going to continue to, as a group of people, to be victims? Or are we going to change our mindset to be the victors? How are we going to do it? Are we? We got this, but the we got this is the choice to make the change that has to happen within us. So the results would be the one that we're looking for. And it's tough. I admit it's a tough it's a tough idea. It's a tough perspective. It's a tough movement. It's not easy. It's uncomfortable. And anytime that change comes in, it's always uncomfortable. Always uncomfortable. It's never hell. Birth is not comfortable for the woman that's giving birth. At the end of the day, it's not comfortable. All right. But anyway, we've been long enough tonight. We love you guys. I want to tell you guys this real quick. What's this? We got 2 more shows, and we're going to be on hiatus for about a month. We'll be back 1st of October. We're going a little bit different direction next season. Our 7th season, we're going to be on more podcast formula. So intermittently, there will probably be a live show, but a lot of them will be more taped. So you'll be able to, to carry us a little bit more difference in that. But we're working on having our little podcast studio together and things of that nature. So conversations will shift a little bit differently and things like that. So we're looking forward to that. Next season, season 7 is going to be phenomenal. We're going different places. So I think we have 2 more shows before the end of the month, 3 more shows before the end of the month. So month of September, we will be on hiatus, but the past shows, of course, will be in loop each week on, on the same time frame that you'll be able to see it, just like regular shows out there that you watch. And as we're preparing for the next season will probably permanently be Dollar and I and Charles, more featured guests, things of that nature. So we're working on how to establish those, different ones that, will be a part of that at the point. But it's going to season 7 is going to be an exciting moment for us, and I'm totally thrilled and excited about it coming in, and it's going to be kind of pulling a lot of things individually for us. Me, hopefully Don's going to get back into his DTWW reactions, and bringing that to callous to the point to those that really, really enjoy the depth of music and theater and film and all those things that this man has such a profound knowledge in, just tremendous, just truly tremendous in that. So anyway, thank you for watching Truth Beyond Truth tonight. We love you guys so much. And we will see you right back here next week on The Truth Behind the Truth.